Good afternoon. I'm Attorney Benjamin Crump here with Attorney Darrell Parks and Attorney Natalie Jackson, as well as the parents of Trayvon Martin, Sabrina Fulton, and Tracy Martin, as well with Reverend Al Sharpton and Reverend Jesse Jackson. We're going to address you all this time and take a few questions. And I simply want to start off very clearly. Whatever Trayvon Martin was suspended for had absolutely no bearing on what happened on the night of February 26th. We told you previously when you asked questions that he wasn't suspended for anything violent and he wasn't suspended for anything criminal. And if he and his friends experimented with marijuana, that is still completely irrelevant to George Zimmerman killing their son on the night of February 26th. It is one of those things that the family said, what does that have to do with him killing my son? What does it matter? And that is one of the reasons they continue to say it is irrelevant, and we say today that it is completely irrelevant what Trayvon Martin was suspended for on February 26th. Once again, law enforcement is attempting to demonize and blame the victim by releasing bits and pieces of their ongoing investigation that they feel will help build Zimmerman's claim up. It is irrelevant, completely irrelevant. The most important thing in this whole tragedy, the most important thing in this whole tragedy is that George Zimmerman disobeyed the police dispatcher and went and stopped and pursued Trayvon Martin and initiated what proved to be a fatal encounter. And beyond that, that is the only thing that is relevant. Listen to the tape. You're not going to hear from Mr. Tracy Martin and then Miss Sabrina Fulton and then Reverend Sharpton and then Reverend Jackson. Mr. Martin?
Good afternoon. I'd just like to say that even in death, and Trayvon is gone, he will not be returning to us. Even in death, they are still disrespecting my son.
That's right.
And I feel that that's a shame.
Mr. Moulton, do you trust the legal system?
The only comment that I have right now is that they've killed my son.
Yes.
And now they're trying to kill his reputation.
Let me say that when we first got involved in this case, the day the police chief announced there'd be no arrest for probable cause, I had a very candid and open conversation with the attorneys and then with the parents. And we haven't been involved in many of these cases. I was told of all of the particular issues that they may try to raise. We saw them as irrelevant then, we see them as irrelevant now. I said to the parents, as much as it will hurt, they will try to make your son a junkie, a thief, a assault and everything else before this is over.
That's right.
Because they've done it in every case we have fought. The only thing that is relevant is what Mr. Zimmerman knew that day. If Mr. Zimmerman had no knowledge, he had no reason to do anything. If he did have knowledge, the only thing he had the reason to do was to call the police and turn that in. We're dealing with a self-appointed watchdog who disobeyed these dispatches, instructions that he agreed to. All else is irrelevant. Now, if you want to discuss something relevant, discuss what Zimmerman might have had in his system. Discuss his past. Mr. Zimmerman was not tested. Trayvon was. Let's examine why we had a test on the victim rather than the one that was aggressive. Let's not play this double standard of trying to demonize who is dead and sanitize who was the cause of the death.
The central issue in this case is race profiling. It happens across the country, whether by police, by judges, by bankers, by home foreclosures. We must end the racial profiling that set him up in the first place. We know that Mr. Zimmerman should not have pursued him, and he did. Should not have killed him, and he did. And there is no basis for a man over another man's dead body to gone to not be arrested and processed until there's clarity. Even today, the killer is free. Even today, there is no inclination to arrest the killer. The same police department saw on film a homeless man being beaten, and the beater walked away. The same criminality within that infrastructure of that police department remains today. Let me say lastly, this issue of race profiling and misconduct is painful in the case of Trayvon, but it's not unique, it's more universal. We feel this pain all over the country. Why must we all be involved? I have 3 sons. Congressman Jesse Jackson Jr., they bought him a car. He was profiled. Why would a young black man have a car? His parents gave it to him. He had to stand spread eagle before the public and be humiliated. Another son, Yusuf, University of Virginia lawyer, going between Washington and Charlottesville. Stopped over and over again, why would you have a car going to Charlottesville? Another son, Masters of Business Administration from Northwestern University. Stopped in handcuffed. Why are you in this neighborhood? You don't live here. This process lends itself to gross injustice. And so, Mr. Zimmerman should be arrested. The law of stand your ground should be repealed, just as the voter ID law should be repealed for the same forces finance both of them. In a real sense, the blood of this martyr has illuminated the darkness, and we shall maintain our vigilance and our action until justice is done. I would hope, given the implication of this across the whole country, this is the time to have that mature dialogue on race disparity that we were promised. This is the time to revive the Civil Rights Commission. We might have measurement of where we are and not just anecdotes. The time to revive the Kerner Commission report. We might have a real picture of where we are in matters of race relations. Why must we have it? Because the moral flaw of our society is race injustice. Racial injustice must be eliminated. Racial justice, gender equality, workers' rights, and the American dream goes hand in hand. We thank God for using, at this Easter season, Trayvon to illuminate the darkness. There's an essential message in Easter, it is this: you don't have to be guilty to be crucified. If you're pursuing the right thing, God will resurrect you above all odds. We thank God the resurrected spirit of Trayvon. It now has given us as a nation another opportunity to address our great moral flaw. Thank you.
Mr. Trump, have you filed a civil lawsuit against the neighborhood association on behalf of the family?
No, we have not, and We don't know how to get that out other than taking out of context. We have been very vigilant, just trying to get an arrest. We can't even look at any of that kind of stuff until we get the facts out and get an arrest.
Mr. Trump, these reports that Trayvon initiated the violence, you say they're irrelevant, but are they inaccurate?
We absolutely believe they're inaccurate based on the 911 tapes. He's chasing Trayvon. The phone call is 7:12, and that's when the incoming call came in. We gave you the phone records, and it clearly said she called him at 7:12. She talked 4 minutes. At 7:17, the police get there. Trayvon is shot and killed on the ground. She connects the dots as to what happened. She hears the encounter between Trayvon and Zimmerman. She's the last one to hear Trayvon Martin alive, and she connects the dots.
Have investigators interviewed her yet?
The investigators are planning to interview her immediately.
Can you all address this idea that Trayvon Martin, they said he initiated the attack, but they also said that he jumped on top of Zimmerman, he beat his head into a sidewalk. I mean, is this something that you know him to be capable of doing?
And his parents talked over and over again. Trayvon was an average kid. He was one of those kids who had never ever demonstrated any violence, had never even gotten in a fight in school. So it's one of those situations that Zimmerman is alive and can say whatever. Trayvon is dead and can't defend himself. But what we do know is Trayvon was walking home that night, and had Zimmerman not disobeyed the police dispatcher and got out of his car and pursued Trayvon, Trayvon would still be living today. That's what we do know.
Did he have no right to
Can I say something? Let me just say this. Because from the last 3 questions, this is why we rallied, that's why we're marching, that's why we're coming back Easter weekend. Why are we asking about what Trayvon is capable of when you have records of Zimmerman assaulting law officers? You have domestic violence. No one asked his lawyer about his character that has been documented. He is the one on the 911 tape that made a commitment that he was not going to follow him. He followed him. He has the record of violence. So why are we going out of our way to try and create something in Trayvon's background when you have documented stuff in Zimmerman's background and won't even question his attorney about it?
When I'm walking down the street going home, an African-American male, and someone seeks to engage me in a conversation without a badge or uniform, and seeks to engage me in instruction and a threat to arrest me with a gun, I have some obligation to protect myself. Why should he be pursued in the first place in his own neighborhood? Mr. Trayvon was getting home. It was Zimmerman. And why should he have been there in the first place? I really hope that we will not complicate a rather direct question. I cannot help but think as he walks the street free today, Emmett Till, who didn't have on a hood, was killed. Within 3 weeks, there was a trial, a 6 to 7 minute deliberation. The killers walked free, acquitted. Mr. Medgevers, shot down in cold blood. The killer for 30 years, walked free. Today the killer of Trayvon Martin walks free. I hope we don't have to go through an attempt to do in the newsroom what should happen in the courtroom. A trial that's orderly and fair and comprehensive. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
There we go.
Why did you let the story stand for so long about why Trayvon was dismissed?
Question answer. Don't just walk away from it.